Andrew Drummond here with Ski the Whites to run you through the Radical 2.0 demo binding and how to get it adjusted to any boot. First things, you'll need a Torque 20 bit or a Phillips depending on the back screw. For this I'm just going to use a drill, but a hand screwdriver will work as well. It's really simple. The first thing you're going to do is actually put the boot into the ski. So slide the boot into the binding and press down. There's a lever here. You're going to flip it up. This is what allows the front of the toe piece to move forward and back. And what I'm looking to do is to center of the boot on the recommended mounting point of the ski, so that really it's a sweet spot. Every ski generally has a marking of where that is. So once I have that roughly aligned, I'm going to look on the toe piece and I'm going to slide that lever back down, and that's going to lock the toe in place. So now with that done and the boot still in the binding, I need to adjust the heel piece. So for this particular boot, I'm going to move the heel back until I can get the heel into the binding. So with this Torque 20, you're going to go righty-loosey, and that's just the way that Dynafit bindings are. So one key thing here with the demo bindings is that if you go with a really large boot or a really small boot, the heel piece might actually get close to the stopping points. And so these stopping points you do not want to go beyond, because what will happen, it will de-thread this screw and the spring pressure will actually create the screw to go out of the nut, and then the binding is done. You're going to have to Dremel out the screw. It's no fun. So what you'll do in those situations is, hopefully if you can make it work, you might move the center of the boot forward or back of the recommended center point to avoid that situation. Next thing, I'm going to step the boot into the binding. It's always easier to do with the boot locked forward. So now with the boot in the binding, with the Radical 2, you want the heel flush up against the heel of the boot. You don't want much gap, because what happens when this ski flexes is the heel piece can move backwards and forwards, keeping a steady pressure, or at least keeping a significant amount of the pins in the heel inserts, and that's going to help prevent pre-release. So I'm looking at the heel piece and there is no gap, so what I'm going to do is move the heel piece a little further back until I can see a tiny bit of light. You're looking at less than a millimeter, so I usually say like a credit card or less of a gap, and that's just to ensure that the binding will function properly. The last two things you wanted to look at is the release values on this. And this particular binding has two values. It's got the pin tension, which is a small screwdriver hole above with a reading right below. And then you have a lateral tension. And this is it's the bigger Phillips head. And that's going to be the tension of the heel tower moving side to side. And generally I leave it in the center on the default, and so in this model it goes from 4 to 10, so I'm just going to leave it right at 7. If someone's heavier or a more aggressive skier, I tend to turn it up to closer to 10, and if someone's lighter weight or is more concerned with not being able to release out of this model, then I'll turn it down. But that's it. That's all you really need to know for adjusting the demo binding. Just make sure you find that sweet spot. Move the toe on each ski to the same number, so that you do get the center of the boot over the center of the ski. Heel piece needs to be adjusted so it's right up against the heel of the boot.